Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fantasy Football University, FFU. Ladies and gentlemen,
FFU.
welcome in. I'm Mr. Bill DeCousas. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang, and we have a special guest, Mr. John DeCousas. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Doing good. Doing good. Ready to rock.
Doing well on this very rainy day in New Jersey, yes.
Well, it's sunshine and butterflies down here in South Carolina.
I know you keep making me jealous, man.
Yeah. Got to make that switch.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. For now, while we're stuck in the Northeast, so we're coming to you guys in the off season, continuing our draft recap. We got a little mock draft later in the episode, but first we'll cover some of the latest news from around the league, and basically it all revolves around the NFL owners meeting. They voted on a bunch of different resolutions, the most notable of which we'll touch upon. So. The first one being that they did vote, and by a gigantic, overwhelming majority, that the NFL players are allowed to compete in the Olympics in the flag football situation. The provisions there is that you can have a one player per NFL team max, so you can't have more than one per NFL team. But there's a lot of players who've expressed interest. The most notable on the list is Patrick Mahomes and Justin Jefferson. So it'll be interesting. Now I'm going to be excited for the 2028 Summer Olympics for
I
this
don't know.
thing.
I think, it's been such a really cool experience for like these guys that have been doing it for such a period of time. Like they're not professional players, in the NFL, and they've been making names for themselves, and it really, I feel like it discredits them. They've been doing it, and it takes, yeah, I mean, maybe it shows that some of these players that have been doing it for a long time can actually compete in the NFL, and they're being underappreciated as well too. So it could be a positive thing, but I do think it kind of like these guys make millions of dollars. Let them stick with their game. They could get injured, and it could void contracts as well too. I don't know. I mean, it could be a Derek Carr situation. Who knows?
There's no way they're not doing it with the money in mind. They know how many eyeballs are going to be on the flag football thing if Mahomes is throwing it to Jefferson and stuff like that. Like it's Johnny, do you like this?
I actually do. If you look at the NBA, once the Olympics got basketball involved, the pro players weren't playing for a considerable amount of time. Once they joined, then just about every year since then, the United States has won the gold. So I do think this is a net positive, especially for the United States, to have obviously our top tier players playing in the Olympics in this particular sport. And so I'm really looking forward to see, the fantasy matchups to come along with, what wide receivers and quarterbacks, et cetera, are going to be part of these teams. So really excited to see it.
I wish that they would allow them to compete in rugby sevens, but
Yeah, I
I
mean, but
think
the thing is, it's only flag football, so I
right,
mean,
the risk of injury is lower. That's the only reason they allowed this to go. But it'll be interesting. So first time we'll be able to see it is in 2028. So the next big resolution, oh, this is going to be funny. So so they did vote on the tush push not being banned. Uh, for anybody who doesn't know, they needed two-thirds majority to be able to make a rule change, and so they needed 24 teams. They only got 24 teams, 22 teams to vote for banning the tush push. And I'm gonna list the teams out that that voted to keep the tush push: Philadelphia Eagles, Baltimore Ravens, the Browns, the Lions, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Saints, the Jets, and the Titans. Tommy, I was talking to Johnny before you got on. A couple of these teams make perfect sense, but one team that doesn't. What are the Dolphins doing, voting to keep the tush push? He's Tua has no business running anywhere with the football. How?
I mean, maybe they're gonna put Ewers in there, and basically he's gonna be the tush push king.
Maybe that's unbelievable. Yeah,
I don't know.
and our New York Jets voted for it. Whatever. I mean, I told you I
I think
thought
it's
it needed to be
irrelevant at this
banned
point. I mean, it's going to get voted out down the road at some
eventually.
point when it pisses a lot of people off. When it pisses those teams that voted for it to be fine, it's gonna go back to vote, and it's gonna be banned at some point. But I mean, again, I mean, like I said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, is like, I'm a Giants fan. Obviously, we all know, and I see the Eagles twice a year, atypically, and the thing is, like, if you can't defend it, so you're gonna cry about it. Just learn how to defend it.
But
Part
wait,
of
but
the,
Well, we talked about it, Johnny. I'll let you go in a sec. Tommy, we talked about it. The way that you would defend it, a lot of aspects of that are banned on the defensive side. So we have
Well,
an inequity here.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, Johnny, we
Either you allow both sides to be able to do both things, or
launching.
it's gone.
Right.
Because realistically, this play, well, I don't even know what the percentage is for, first downs or picking up that yard on these third ones and fourth and ones with the push, but I'm sure it's, astronomical. So I don't really know what you expect the defense to do at that point if you're literally handcuffing them, regardless of how they're allowed to defend it. Yes, it's almost like a rugby scrum, sure, but if you're going to handcuff one side of the ball, I mean, there's not even a point for defensively in order to be able to defend it. You might as well just wave the white flag and give up first down at that point. So I think that's something that at least if they're not going to ban it, you have to allow defenses to be able to defend it accordingly.
We talked about that when we talked about a few weeks ago. Like, if you can't currently allow defensive players to launch off of each other, then you can't have this on offense. But one of the reasons that I think that way isn't because, oh, it's unfair. Like, figure out how to run it as good as the Eagles, and then I'll take you seriously when you start getting into the minutia of like rule changes and stuff.
Well, maybe you don't allow the running back and the receiver that's behind the quarterback to be able to push him in behind, where he only has to push his offensive lineman, and that's it. He has no other support from behind him. Maybe that's something we can at least look into.
They will ban this by next year. Like, it
But
won't last.
as small as a play as this is, it's an exciting play. It's something worth entertaining to watch because, especially for Philadelphia, it was so automatic the last couple of years. Where,
yeah.
um,
What's amazing about this is such a fantasy relevant thing that, like, if they were to ban it, it changes how we think about Jalen Hurts. Like, that's factors like in the
Yeah,
quarterback
I mean,
ranking.
the touchdown ratio will go down for sure.
Absolutely. Um,
Your
so the
anytime
note
touchdowns for Jalen Hurts once a week will not be minus 110.
No, it'll be back in the pluses. So the notable votes for the ban, no surprises. It's basically every team that played the Eagles in the in the playoffs. That's the Packers, Rams, Commanders, and Chiefs, and then every team in the NFC East, the Giants and the Cowboys, along with the treasure trove of other teams.
Yep.
So the I just wanted to quick mention, and I would have thought for a fact the Buffalo Bills would have voted against the ban, considering they were the second biggest culprit this past year in the last few years with this. Nope, they voted for the ban. Um, so I don't know. Maybe they're getting tired of having to like. Well, I guess we'll do it with Josh Allen. I don't know. That one like struck me really weird, but
I mean, if they haven't done it yet, there's no reason for them to do it. I mean, they have so many options. I mean, Josh Allen's a beast of a man. He's no Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think he has another like 40, like 30 pounds on Jalen Hurts, if anything.
much bigger and taller.
Yeah. So I mean, like honestly, like for reality, I mean, his game, obviously it would work for his game, but I mean, also, I mean, he's a good scrambler and he's smart. When he's moving with the ball as well too. So they have a good option.
Yeah. Yeah.
let, let,
Well,
let me just say this here. It is entertaining that Miami voted to
that's what
keep
we're
it.
saying. Yeah.
I want to fast forward to some primetime game Miami's in, and they're running the tush push for Tua just for sheer entertainment purposes. But
It'll never happen. It'll never
That will be
happen.
the end of Tua's career.
stay healthy,
Um,
Tua. Stay healthy. You're a good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
the other major resolution, I forget if they actually voted on it or if they rescinded it or whatever it was, but they were mentioning the whole thing about playoff reseeding. It's essentially, it was like the Vikings rule. It was like, okay, the top two finishers in the NFC this past year was the Lions and the Vikings, but the Vikings ended up with a wild card spot because they did not win their division. So in a reseeding, it would be that the Viking, like, it would be by record within your conference. That was rescinded. It wouldn't have passed, and a lot of people don't like it, including the fans. I'm glad that happened too. So I don't know if they look at that however many years from now. It's not happening now. So,
Yeah.
that they can. Well, hey, you want to get a first round bye? Win your division. Pretty simple. So there we go. Any other news I missed this week?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I just want to point
Oh yeah,
out.
yeah.
Obviously, last week we discussed Derek Carr's retirement
That's right.
announcement. All three quarterbacks that are there right now are in they're in competition for the QB1 role. So I don't know if they may or may not be looking for that quarterback this year. So I don't think Kirky Cousins is going to find his way over there, or even the trade with Jameis is going to even be something that it will even talk about moving forward, but we'll see. Trey Hendrickson, basically he did go to a voluntary practice. He won't sign play, basically won't sign without a new deal. He's obviously a major role for the Cincinnati Bengals defense. So they do need him.
There's no money left.
Well, I mean, they need him. They need him. They sell. See, put his contract in Bitcoin or something like that. I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
so no money then.
no money. Gabe Davis. He's. I mean, this is slightly irrelevant as of right now, but Gabe Davis has visited the San Francisco 49ers and also the Giants. I think it's more so a Giants move, if anything, than San Francisco with all the wide receivers they have there. Derrick Henry gets a 2-year extension. I think we covered that last week, right? Possibly,
We did
potentially.
not cover that. We did
Yeah,
not cover
Derrick Henry gets his 2-year extension, so makes me feel a lot better about drafting him this year at a higher level. I know you don't
that.
feel that way, but guess what? Leave him. I'll draft him.
That's your standard
Our
response.
favorite, our favorite wide receiver one on the Green Bay Packers, Jaden Reed, is bulking up this season. He bulks up this season. Yeah, so he was at 190, I think 187 that we spoke last week. He might be 195 now. That matches him in Golden. Um, Brock Purdy gets his massive deal,
Yeah, we
5-year
didn't.
extension.
That we should just talk about for a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's a big one right there.
So yeah, he got a massive, one of the highest paid player in the leagues. So I'm going to be very consistent about this. I was critical about the whole Joe Burrow thing, and rightfully so, especially about how he acted. I'm also going to be critical about this in general for quarterbacks because I have to be consistent. I can't just because I might like a guy different than. But the thing is, within the context of if this is what is happening with quarterbacks, if this is what is happening in the NFL, I don't want to hear an argument from anybody that Purdy didn't deserve that if this is what we're doing. Purdy was consistent. He's been on leading these teams to great records, to great and if you just watch him play, he's executing this offense. This idea that it's all Kyle Shanahan, that it's all this, that it's all that. I mean, it's not like we watched it when they did not have good quarterback play out of
I hear
Beathard, out of whoever else. It's Purdy is executing this to a high level. He deserved it.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, I agree to an extent, but we'll see this year. He has less talent on the outside as of right now. From on paper, they have some decent names that are out there, but losing Debo is a massive loss. Even though he was not as relevant as much as he was last year, that is a massive loss for a team. With as we know, a lot of the plays were scripted to Debo to make that offense run smoothly. So we'll see this year. We'll see this year. I do think that he is a great quarterback. But again, maybe this will be a better for situation for him, especially with that healthy or hopefully healthy CMC. Um, I don't know,
What
but
what makes what makes that offense rumble is McCaffrey. It's
yeah.
not Purdy.
Well,
It's
but
not.
again, McCaffrey was Purdy was there before McCaffrey, and they were still doing well.
Sure, because they had a considerably better roster when Purdy was there before McCaffrey. So I do think the roster is not as good. I also think a lot of the players that they've paid, i.e., Kittle, I wouldn't have paid. I don't really see the point of doing that. He's north of 30. You don't normally play players north of 30, and also he's going to miss probably 7 to 8 games this year.
And that's
So,
why Ricky Pearsall is going to be the leading catcher on the 49ers this year.
but getting back
They
to
didn't
to
catch
Purdy
him.
and Purdy's contract. So what is that? 53 million a year, roughly. That's what it is. So it's a little rich for me. I mean, I don't think Purdy in that top tier level of quarterbacks, but considering the numbers that he's shown, and I think he's athletic enough to be able to move around, but he's going to have to show a different growth and a different level coming into this year in order to be able to justify that contract.
I mean,
He's
Johnny,
not
he had to make up for that $1 million contract for the past 3 years he was making. Like what league minimum?
well lucky enough for San Francisco, they have a very easy schedule this year.
Yeah.
So they just, I think that I think I read somewhere this is the easiest schedule an NFL team has got going into the year in the last, I think, 15 years. So if they were,
Partially it's because they finished in last place last year,
so part
behind
of
the Cardinals.
part of the argument is, as well is that for San Francisco's organization, he's still going to want a contract. Let's say you didn't pay him this year and you did whatever, some sort of band-aid kind of contract. Let's say he goes out and has an MVP caliber kind of year. Now you're going to pay him close to Dak Prescott money going into 26 at that point. So I think for both sides, Purdy, I don't think got as much as what he wanted, and I think San Francisco saw the writing on the wall and what potentially he could look like over the course of this year because of the competition that they play over the course. So
Yeah.
They were just 2 seconds just to mention this. Like, again, I have a fundamental problem with so many with like singular or like one or two players sucking up the entire money for an entire organization. It's not good for the team. It's nothing against Brock Purdy, and like I went on a tirade about the Joe Burrow thing before. Something that I remember them saying is that they were considering doing a separate salary cap for just the quarterbacks as a separate entity than the salary cap for the rest of the for the rest of the players. I don't know how they would execute something like that, but I mean, when you got guys like Joe Burrow running around with $55 million a year and complaining that nobody else is getting paid, I mean, again, I'm not gonna like. So we just said
All right,
Trey
we're not getting
Hendricks.
back on that train.
We don't have to get back on the train, but anyway, I'm saying if you're doing that, I don't see how you don't think that Purdy was worth it. But I mean,
I
we'll
got
see how it goes.
got a few more things. Deshaun Watson out on a walking boot. I know. The only
Why are we talking about
hold
this?
on. The only reason why I brought that up is because they have now five quarterbacks that potentially might be suiting up. So I will say, I mean, at least two of those quarterbacks are going to find their way on free agency, or at least yeah, at least two are not going to make that team. Um, and I think it's going to be the highest. I mean, maybe Deshaun Watson is just out. I don't know.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they drafted two quarterbacks. And I don't find one of those quarterbacks finding free agency or getting cut. Um, Cam Ward is splitting reps with Will Levis. I believe based on what they did, what the Tennessee Titans did by drafting Cam Ward, he is the starter. There is no controversy. He is the starter. There's no
Sure.
reason for Will Levis to even touch the field. So he's a
Right.
back.
If you and I agree on this so much, like about we get annoyed at certain things with coach speak and coach's actions.
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree with it is irrelevant. They drafted Cam Ward number one with the whole thing. He should be the guy getting the stuff. If he
Yeah.
fails, whatever. That's the actions that they
That's
did.
what it is.
So why are they pretending? Oh, we're gonna split stuff. Why do we even go this route?
I don't
Why?
know. The I don't know. But the last news on Tennessee was that Tony Pollard and Spears are even splitting backfield, so 50-50. So honestly, I know we were talking about Pollard for the past couple weeks. I do think that this is an uptick on Spears' ADP. I think Spears is a more explosive runner and a better catcher than Pollard.
At this point in his career, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't maybe. I know that Spears towards the end of the year last year he really looked good.
yeah,
But the problem is, I mean, we say this all the time, like if you're not on a good team, I'm not interested in two running backs. So you good luck, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be like, hey, flip a coin each week. What do you think? Yada yada, that kind of thing. Like it's not that attractive. One thing you mentioned that I didn't just mention on. So the Saints. So I don't see how Tyler Shuck, I don't see how he doesn't start if they don't bring in a quarterback.
I
So
mean,
that's
Spencer Rattler didn't look horrible.
oh, stop it. You like him for the wrong reasons, this SEC thing. He looked awful. It was
Yeah.
awful. It was awful. Shuck is definitely starting, but this is why I'm saying like Captain Kirk will go there or Jameis Winston or something.
Yeah, the last thing I just wanted to review real quick is there's some controversy right now. I don't think it's big news. I think he's going to play, but um, Terry McLaurin is trying to get an extension or a new contract. Now, I mean, I could see it being a real deal kind of thing because obviously you bring on Debo and these other players that are coming on, coming to the team, and obviously money is, it starts dwindling, and you want to make sure that you're locked in, and he's not getting younger, so um, I could see it being a real thing, but I don't see him holding out in the season for it to affect his ADP moving forward.
I hope you're right. I mean, we did talk about this. Like, we're high on McLaurin. I'm a little worried about his age, but we are high on McLaurin for this
Yeah.
year. We'll get into that farther into the offseason.
Yep,
So,
yep.
ready to jump into a little bit of NFC North?
Let's get it.
All right, NFC North, draft recap and reaction. So, no surprise, we'll go from the best finisher from last year to the last. We'll go over their draft stuff. We'll make notes on how it affects them from a fantasy perspective. So, top on the list was the Detroit Lions. So, we say all the time that teams that are spending most of their draft and especially the higher picks on O line and defense is very happy with how their offense looked last year. So we're probably going to see a lot more of the same from the Detroit Lions, minus Ben Johnson. So keep that in mind. But first round they go D line, second round they go guard, O line and D line. Not until the third round did they grab a wide receiver who, a lot was made of him. He was definitely like a physical standout from Arkansas. This is Isaac Tesla. Um, his name is gonna. I hope he does something in the NFL because we're gonna have a lot of fun with his with his name. I don't know how much of an impact he makes on the Lions. It's basically just gonna be Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, right? Or am I wrong? Or are they gonna try to work him in?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Patrick also found his way. He wasn't
That's true.
he wasn't consistent. Same thing with Khalif Raymond. I mean, they weren't consistent, but they had some big games. So I mean, like if I think it's still going to just be Amon Ra and then obviously Jameson Williams. I mean, but Amon Ra is going to command all those targets.
Yeah,
Obviously, you have Sam Laporta. I mean, there has to be a bounce rebound year this year for Sam Laporta, or I don't know. Either that or Jared Goff just doesn't like the tight end.
Johnny, I didn't get a chance to ask you this. So Ben Johnson left the Lions, but functionally speaking, nothing else left. They have the exact same personnel, basically, offense, defense. How different do the Lions look in 2025? Is it just a slight regression overall, or what do you think?
they're probably going to look very similar to what they looked this year. Probably a little less creative than they were the last couple of seasons, but I do think by and large they're going to run very similar sets. If you look at what they drafted, like you mentioned earlier, interior linemen and interior defensive linemen. So, um, what's the name of the head coach? I'm sorry, I've drawn a blank.
Oh,
Yeah, Dan Campbell.
hey,
And
Campbell.
Cameron.
So, like that still fits the mold of what he wants to have his
Yeah.
team and organization look like. So that still, falls right in lockstep with it. They didn't really have too many needs to go get themselves a star wide receiver or a guy who can command the ball because they have so many people there who get the ball in the first place, and nobody there is supposed to get 130 balls a year or so. Even the backfield is still split. They just paid both Montgomery, and Gibbs is eventually going to get a contract himself. So. I
Yeah.
don't see too much change going on in Detroit this year offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I've been agreeing, and that's what I've been saying this entire time too. I mean, I don't really see much change. I mean, you're going to see the same exact kind of formation. Maybe again, like you said, not as much creativity, but I mean, you got the roster, you got the players to keep if the wheel's not broken, don't fix it. So just keep rolling it the right way. The good thing what they did was because they had so many injuries last year on the defensive side, they made these moves in the draft to get younger and have these players that have a little bit more stability on the defensive end of the game. So that's what they need in that division too. The division's only getting stronger.
That's
So
right.
obviously we're covering this division today, so it's a really good division, really competitive division to have a conversation about. Obviously when we get to the Packers, you got pretty much the youngest team on paper there. So
Yeah. Um, And I mean, the Vikings obviously they were in second. Let's mention the Vikings. They were no slouch either. So the Vikings, they went offensive line first round. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. They did not have a pick in the second round. Third round, they went wide receiver, similar to the Lions there. I don't think Tay Felton from Maryland. I don't think he's going to have a massive impact into the
No.
offensive rotation. I mean, Jefferson and Addison are going to basically swallow up everything. On top of the fact that now JJ McCarthy is going to be taking over. I'm of the opinion that JJ McCarthy is going to be great, but it might take a little while to get him there. So maybe there'll be a slight regression on the Vikings overall for a little while. But it's you trust in Kevin O'Connell, you trust in that offense. Later on in the draft, they just basically went defense. So nothing too crazy changing about the Vikings. Um, yeah, Johnny, you see a slight regression in the Vikings as well, at least initially.
I would. It depends on what the odds are. I would bet big money the Vikings do not finish with 14 wins this year. I don't think that's going to be
Wow.
realistic for them whatsoever. I like though that they went guard and receiver in their first two picks because yes, they're going to have a brand new quarterback. So to get as much help around him as possible is the correct move. After that, they needed to get help on the edge and with their backers, which is exactly what they did the picks, the two picks after that. So I think their first four picks there were, uh, quality decisions,
I don't,
not just
but
positioning,
they
but
didn't need. I don't think they needed to draft a wide receiver in the third round. I got it, maybe a depth piece, but
you're
like,
you're you're trying to give your quarterback as many options so that he feels as comfortable as possible.
eh,
So I
Well,
understand that.
I got a question. Do you guys think that they're maybe playing copycat football with their division rival that we just spoke about when it comes down to trading for Jordan Mason, having Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in the backfield? I mean, let's just put it this way. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Ty Chandler, fantasy relevant guys, right?
sure,
Like massively fantasy relevant guys. When JJ McCarthy, you play towards your quarterback strength. They already are going to JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy, when he was in Michigan, it was a run first offense,
sure.
pretty much. He does favor the tight end. He also has Justin Jefferson. So don't you? I mean, I really think it's going to be more of like a 60-40, so 60 run, rush, 40 pass kind of game. If they can run and they get that play action, that's his forte. That's JJ McCarthy's forte. So I do see a regression this year with Justin Jefferson, as I spoke about last week and the week prior to an extent, but I don't think it's going to be detrimental to his fantasy value. I do value CD Lamb over Justin Jefferson based on the quarterback play and what I believe is going to happen this year. But again, I mean, the relevance for I really think that there's going to be tremendous fantasy value for not only just obviously Aaron Jones, but Jordan Mason. I mean, you have two healthy running backs back there splitting carries and kind of like the same scenario with, Gibbs and Montgomery. I mean, I wouldn't put any of them on Gibbs's caliber, but I mean, if you have two Montgomerys running, which at this point, I think they're two
Don't go
Montgomerys.
there. No, no.
I'm saying, I think it could be really good fantasy wise.
I do too, and where you and I both feel the same way about Jordan Mason. I think he could be a real sleeper pick this year.
Yeah, super late round. I mean,
For where he's going, right?
yeah, I mean, you're talking about 10th, 11th, 12th round, potentially not even, sometimes not even drafted.
Right. And there's no, I mean, Aaron Jones has an injury history. Aaron Jones goes down. I mean, locked and loaded Jordan Mason,
Yeah.
the high end running back too. Yeah, I'm feeling good about that. I just the only question is, it's like, how soon does JJ McCarthy like come online as a good quarterback, or does he? Does he not? I mean, we have faith in Kevin
I
O'Connell.
just
It'll
don't
be
think he needs to be. He could be the Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not a lights out every single week quarterback. He leans on that run, and if the run doesn't work, he has to throw the ball. That's what he does, And I think that's what it's a copycat league. I think they're gonna just kind of follow the same system that was been working for their division rivals as well too.
sure. Finishing last year's finisher right after the Vikings is the Packers. So yeah, all three of the teams we just mentioned, they all went to the playoffs last year. So all very good teams. So the Packers, um, they made a splash. The first round wide receiver that they've drafted since whatever it was, 2000 and since 1822, basically it felt like since since a long time ago for the last 20 years or whatever. Uh, first
That
wide
pick,
receiver,
that pick may have forced Aaron Rodgers to want to retire.
maybe. So the pick was Matthew Golden out of Texas. Golden speedster, very very good wide receiver. But Tommy and I were kind of laughing at the fact of like, well, it's not like like when you're saying we need a number one wide receiver, that was the whole joke, the Josh Jacobs thing. And then they go and draft a guy who's essentially the same exact stature as every other receiver that they have in there. 5'10", 190, basically,
except for Christian Watson.
who can't stay on the field.
Correct.
So like you would have thought that they would have gotten like a, like a bigger, taller, more prototypical Devontae Adams type of receiver, but they did not. They went golden. So no reason to think he's not going to be great, but and Johnny, it'll be interesting to get your view on this. How
So
many mouth,
my
how many
They got
mouths to feed
six.
in
They
Green
got
Bay? Like,
six relevant wide receiver. I won't say relevant. They have six playable wide receivers.
right.
so if let's do a little bit bigger picture with this. What do these first three picks for Green Bay tell you about what the coaching staff and the general manager thinks about the receivers that they have?
Right.
It's that it makes you believe that they don't think they have a number one receiver on their roster, or they think they have way too many number two/three receivers that they need to get
So
themselves better at those positions.
so they listened to Josh Jacobs.
So I like also too. You just paid Jordan Love going into last year. He'd had an up and down year at best. I don't think they had anywhere the year that they
Well, he was
thought they.
also injured. He was also injured since week 1, and it kind of like lingered throughout the entire season. So I mean, injuries at quarterback play when you're 100% touching the ball, that's tough.
Sure. But either way, if I'm paying like we talked about money earlier for these, quarterbacks, if I'm paying him big money, I don't want to hear that, he has this nicking him or that knacking him. He should be able to play at a level what he's getting paid for. So I think that a lot of what they did in those first three picks is to one, help Jordan Love with protection with getting a tackle the second round. Golden is the first time they take that Green Bay has taken a first round wide receiver in what, almost 20 years, roughly. And then they took another receiver after that. So I have a feeling one or not two of the receivers that are currently on the roster in Green Bay are going to get traded at some point during the course of the year. They're not going to carry all seven of these guys with them over the course of the year. Someone's
Pro-
getting shipped out somewhere.
Well, they have
Probably.
12. They have 12 wide receivers right now on their depth chart.
Yeah, Johnny, probably you may be right about that, but the point is from a fantasy perspective, how do you even slice this up? How do you
No,
evaluate this? Right, you
Well,
see what I
I
mean?
think, well, for Watson, he can't stay healthy. So what good are you to me if you can't stay healthy? I can't rely on you to go be a big time down the field threat receiver if you can't stay healthy.
well, let's just put it this way. I
Jake,
mean, you're not drafting Miko Harmon. You're not drafting Dontavian Wicks. You're not drafting Christian Watson. You're not drafting Romeo Dobbs. You're not drafting, hopefully not drafting Matthew Golden, anticipating that he's going to be a number one. Or if you're going to take him, it's going to be super late in rounds. And same thing
So,
with
so,
Jaden Reed.
so you're saying you're drafting Jaden Reed as the highest ranked Green Bay wide
Well,
receiver?
the problem is that's where it kind of favors. But again, I will not draft Jaden Reed.
What if, I mean, if he
Even
fell
if
long
he
enough?
if he falls to 15, yeah, I'll take a risk. He'll be my 12th wide receiver.
All right, I want this on record, Johnny. Which Green Bay receiver finishes with the most catches in 2025?
Golden.
Tommy? And the thing is, he doesn't want to say it, and he knows what the answer is.
Tucker Kraft.
Which which Green Bay receiver ends up with the most catches? I want you to
Uh,
say it, and you know what the answer is. It's going to be Jaden Reed. It is going to be Jaden Reed.
no, it's gonna
Matt,
be Matthew Golden.
I'll take a bet with the both of you on that. It's not gonna. I'll just say it's not gonna be Golden. It's gonna be it'll be Reed. It'll be most likely Reed.
All right, good luck.
So also, if you look back to what Green Bay did towards the tail end of the draft, they took edge, defensive, interior, or corner. So
Yes.
they addressed some of their defensive needs later in the draft. We'll see, which one of these edge guys actually turns out to be, a help for them. Could be neither of them. Could be a year or two by the time they actually develop it up. But Van Ness, that they took a couple years ago in the first round, has not panned out to be, that 15 to 18 sack guy a year. So I do think they needed help there. So I do overall think they did a pretty good job with their draft.
I will say something that I think we can all agree on. So, and Johnny, like Tommy and I were kind of mentioning it. We're feeling good about Jordan Love this season. He's got a lot of weapons now. The offense is going to look good, especially in 6-point touchdown leagues. Like we're feeling good about Love. You disagree with us?
I In the fantasy perspective, yeah, he has a lot of toys to throw the ball to, but he also has to be able to do it. Which to me, he only looked like he could do it for about half a year. So I want to see what he looks like, for a whole year. You got to be able to put together consistently. So I'm a
Okay.
little leery on that. Yes, he has plenty of people to throw the ball to. Doesn't mean it's going to translate into anything. JJ McCarthy has a plethora of people to throw the ball to over there. Doesn't mean it's going to necessarily translate to him as, oh my goodness, he's a top 8 quarterback for fantasy purposes. So
No, but Love has some experience under his belt, and he's good at throwing touchdown passes. I mean, he started going to going at it towards the end of the year last year. So again, like we'll evaluate it. I mean, we're just saying like, well, he's a pocket passer, so he doesn't really have the running upside as much as other people. But we'll get into that in the offseason a little more. So let's close it out. Let's talk about the Bears. So
Oh,
Bears
Bears.
the Bears made some moves in the draft here. So the big one was round one, pick 10. They drafted instead of Tyler Warren, who was more on the higher on most people's boards, including Mel Kiper. He couldn't stop screaming about it. So they drafted Colson Loveland, tight end out of
AJ
out of Michigan.
McCarthy's favorite target.
Right, and now he's at the Bears. So now, and second round, they go wide receiver Luther Burden, superstar receiver out of Missouri. I thought he was going to end up in. A lot of people thought he was going to end up in Kansas City, but he didn't make it. Drafted by the Bears. And then again, they had another second round pick. They go tackle. So what are they telling you? They're telling you they wanted to improve that offense. And the Bears this offseason have done nothing except do things to improve their offense. Bring in Ben Johnson, bring in the one or two players that they did for their offensive line, all offensive improvements. Um, I,
I mean,
I want
wasn't Caleb Williams the third highest sacked player in league history last year?
he had a lot of sacks, and he
Yeah,
didn't look
that's
good
like
either. I mean,
that's like very detrimental to a young quarterback psyche.
so Tommy, let me ask you this. So, I mean, you and I, when we were kind of in a different episode, we were kind of talking about this. We were worried now that the pendulum on what people feel about Caleb Williams and the Bears in general might be swinging too far. Are we being too conservative about that, or are we okay to buy into the hype?
No,
I'm
I mean, I think it's good to be conservative about it because you have to see positive. You can't. There's so much negative regression last year, but there were some positive things that happened, but there was a lot of negative regression, and it just there was points in time like where you just couldn't even choose, like you couldn't even use him as a streamer, and the weeks that you wanted him to you use him as a streamer is when he like failed completely. So it really hurt people utilizing Caleb Williams. I mean, again, I mean, like I said, I mean, getting hit that many times is like for a rookie is like you got to for you in order for you to have like a massive bounce back year, you have to have that your confidence level has to be so strong. And I think he's a confident player. It showed last year, you know, week what 1 or 2 something like that when he was trying to have a conversation when CJ Stroud was trying to have a conversation with him, kind of shrugged him off. He was like, I don't care about you," kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he has that confidence. It's also cockiness. But I think with Ben Johnson being there, it's really he'll have a little bit more control of that offense, and he's obviously an offensive mind coach. And I think taking out Keenan Allen as well too, another mouth to feed on that offense, it could really add some value and be a little bit more direct on how they want to run that football team. So I think it'd be good, but I wouldn't. I would be a little bit more reserved than super excited for it.
Johnny, one of the main guys that we were kind of having this question about was Roma Dunze. Can he actually have a second year breakout? Is that possible, or is this a consolidation of targets to DJ Moore, or now with Colston Loveland in the mix, and now Luther Burden as the wide receiver three? How do you see this?
Well, unfortunately, some of these guys are not going to be the fantasy relevant guys that people are going to hope for. It's just a matter of, I think it may depend week to week on who ends up being the guys you want to have in your lineups versus the guys you don't, unfortunately. So let me throw this to you two. Who has a better year, JJ McCarthy or Caleb Williams?
I,
Uh,
I think Caleb Williams has a better year because I think that they're going to be leaning more towards the throwing the ball than JJ McCarthy. So
I
but
agree.
when you say better year, do you mean fantasy or real life?
In real life, and then I'll bring it back to fantasy.
Real
I
life, I
guess
think the Vikings.
yeah, I think the Vikings have a better year, but I think fantasy wise, I think that Caleb Williams has a better fantasy year.
All right,
Agree
so
with
then
comments.
so then I disagree with both of them. I think the Bears are going to have a better year than the Vikings this year. Partly has to do with Caleb Williams having a 1 year under his belt going into his second year with all of these toys and an offensive minded head coach and bringing in as much help in front of him and the receivers as humanly possible. If they end up having to score 40 points per week in order to actually win, that's a different issue. That's a defensive issue that they're going to probably have to handle going into next year after this year. But at least for, what was the goal of the Bears? Fixing Caleb Williams and fixing this offense so that it's stable and it's consistent. That's what I think Ben Johnson has done with these picks here in order to help out as much as possible Caleb Williams because, yes, he's their franchise. So they're going to pull out every trick under the book in order to make this work. So the Bears, I think, are going to finish higher than the Vikings.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, I mean, what we're saying is that maybe, like the pendulum is swinging too far with this. Like maybe people are over, like they're hearing everything that you're saying. Obviously, we notice the same things. There's going to be an improvement, but how big of an improvement? Like, how much is that pendulum swinging? For example, yeah, I was pulling up ADP here. So, Caleb Williams is going as the quarterback 13, basically borderline QB1. I don't know. I don't know if he belongs there. I don't like, I would say probably not. Let's see the wide
I mean,
receivers.
we all know I mean, you all know how I feel about Dak Prescott, so I value Dak Prescott over Caleb Williams. I value to a healthy Tua over Caleb.
Right.
So and those guys are ADP wise, they're underneath him.
So Roma Dunze is not necessarily being inflated, but we got DJ Moore as the wide receiver 21. So I mean, maybe it's not as inflated as I thought, but to some degree, people really do think Caleb Williams is going to be taking a massive step up. I'm just saying, to some degree, we're trying to exercise a little bit of caution with this because we've seen this before where we have gigantic expectations on second year quarterbacks, new environments or whatever, and then it just doesn't work out. It's happened
I
before.
mean, I have more confidence in Caleb Williams this year than I do in Jordan Love, at least for fantasy purposes and also just an
Well, now we're
overall.
getting crazy.
I don't know why though. I don't know why you feel that way.
I don't. I want to see my quarterback do more than what he did. I don't think that he's this guy who is going to light the world on fire. I think he's just going to be a guy at quarterback. How many other quarterbacks right now are currently sitting in this league that are just, above average that get paid excellent amount of money? There's a good number of them. And I don't put Jordan Love in that category. I don't think he has the talent to be able to do it either. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, despite, some of the off the field stuff that comes along with him and everything else. Did he want to go to the Bears, not go to the Bears, etc. I think he has that talent to be able to actually be a top five quarterback in this league. And they got an offensive minded head coach that is going to give him everything under the sun in order to make him as successful as possible. Look at
Okay.
Jordan Love in Green Bay. They have an offensive minded head coach who's brought
Right.
in a number of talent around him, and he hasn't reached that threshold of, oh my goodness, he's a top five quarterback. So
I mean, I, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with every little nook and cranny of what you said. What's interesting is Jordan Love is currently going as the QB 16, but 3 spots behind Caleb Williams. And I just think I just think it's just a bridge too far. I know, Tommy, you agree with me about
I
that.
agree with
Like,
you.
so
I mean,
it's like,
honestly, his first year starting, he finished off the QB 5. So I mean, last year was QB 17 because of injury. So I
right.
mean, again, I don't agree with anything you're saying about Jordan Love, to be honest. I
do
think
you
he's a
think
very valuable quarterback.
do you think Love finishes closer to 5 or closer to 17?
I think he
I,
finishes in the top 10.
I think it's going to be close. I think it'll be right in the middle of what you said, right halfway between five and 17.
I'll put it on record. I think he finished at number 8 this year.
That's perfectly acceptable. Now 6 point touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, because it 4 point touchdowns, I'll be a little less bullish, but 6 point, yes, for sure. He's much less of a runner. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the offseason shakes up with that. Can't wait for the coach speak coming out of Chicago. That's going to be
Coach
fun.
speak. Coach speak.
Yeah, don't get me started. All right, so there we go. That is the NFC North. Next week we'll cover the AFC North. That'll be fun, considering some draft narratives. We'll get into that next week. But for now, let's get into our draft. So yeah, Tommy, I'll set this up. Why don't you explain to everybody?
Yeah, so this week we adapted a little bit of a change with our roster. So we're doing the half point PPR, 10 rounds like we normally do. We'll articulate our draft picks and the reasoning behind over picking some other players. But currently, right now, our roster setup is quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, one flex. We're not going to cover kicker, defense, or anything like that. Our goal is everybody has to fill a roster within the first 10 rounds. Obviously, you're going to have a bench player here and there, but we have to fill the roster. We can't let a roster spot not be seen. But again, we're not touching kickers or defense within the first 10 rounds. So,
Yep.
um,
And we'll try to
now Billy is marked at number 3, Johnny is at number 5, and I am not number 7. So it's going to be interesting seeing obviously one pick in between all of us. So there could be some steals.
steals indeed, and we'll do what we can to kind of quickly go through our logic for each of the things. We'll try to be quick as we close out the show when we go through this, and we'll announce the picks. So we started the draft. I'm at number 3. No surprises off the board. Chase and Barkley have gone off. Now I've already made you know, people know me with like the mock drafts in a single, excuse me, in a single flex league at the top of the draft. You almost never would I consider a wide receiver personally, unless there's like a massive tier difference in running backs. Here is no different. I'm going to take my number one running back. I'll be taking Bijan here the number at my number one running back at the number 3 pick. Following Bijan, CD Lamb went, and now Johnny's up with the number 5 pick.
Well, I actually was going to very much consider taking CeeDee Lamb there at 5, considering who else is going to actually catch the ball in Dallas. I don't think George Pickens is going to be anything in Dallas, by the way. But in the situation I'm sitting in, I'm looking at, 3 top tier wide receivers that are available for me at 5. And also sitting at the 8th overall rank right now is Jahmyr Gibbs. So I have to make a decision at this point of whether or not I'm going to take the wide receiver heavy section right now and
Now,
come back.
Johnny, I don't mean to interrupt you. Just to be clear for the listeners, when you say the 8th overall running back, that's just sleeper ADP. That might not necessarily how we rank them. We haven't officially gone through our rankings yet. That's just sleeper ADP rankings. So
Right. So
yeah.
as of today, as we do this draft, Gibbs
Yes.
is ranked the 8th overall player.
Yeah.
So this
Mhm.
is obviously going to change by the time we get to August and everything else. So for me, I'm going to take the chance and take a running back in the second round, and I'm going to take right now the best wide receiver available on the board for fantasy purposes. And to me, that's Justin Jefferson. So I will take him.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
Justin Jefferson off the board. I'm on Ra following Jefferson. Now Tommy's up with the number 7 pick.
Well, we all know how I feel about Puka Nakua. He's a poo-poo Nakua kind of guy, so
I
I'm
can't. We're gonna have such a massive difference on that
that's
this
fine.
year.
And I'm so happy that a running back fell to me at number 7, and a running back that is dear to my heart. And I also agreed that he could potentially be the number 1 running back taken off the board. So I am going with Jahmyr Gibbs over Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, and Puka Nakua.
As the picks roll around, I have a question to ask you. Supposing Team 6 didn't take Amon Ra and they took Gibbs, who would you have taken with number 7?
Probably would have taken Amon-Ra.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
After my pick, basically, Nico Collins went, then Puka Nakua went, then Thomas went, Neighbors, London, Brown, Bowers. So first tight end off the board at 2-2, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, and then Tyreek Hill went at 2-5, and I'm back on the clock. So We all know how I feel about JSN. I feel like we can just surpass that pick right there. So I'm not taking the best available. JSN is not worth my time. Um, I'm not feeling too keen on taking basically a tight end this early in the in the draft as well too. So unfortunately, Trey McBride, who was a doll of a pick last year, is not going to find his way on my roster this year. Um, so I'm kind of I like balancing out my one and two pick, but I do feel that there are some running backs that are there that will not be there on the way back for me. So I'm gonna have a quick conversation about how I want to strategize this draft right here. So I know on the way back this might be a slightly early, but I do think that there's two running backs that I'm kind of leaning to right now. The first one is Josh Jacobs. It would be a nice package deal to have Gibbs and Jacobs, but I am hoping and praying this year that Christian McCaffrey is healthy as he's saying he is. And with him being the pretty much only player in that backfield now, it makes it seem like, especially with Jordan Mason going to the Minnesota Vikings, that the money's in the bag. He's ready to roll and he's healthy. And having a newly paid quarterback and not as much talent on the outside and not having Debo Samuel there, he's going to have a tremendous amount of volume this year. And I will take a full season of Christian McCaffrey going to Germany and working on his calves and coming back and being healthy to take Mr. Christian McCaffrey at my 2-6.
So let me guess about who you're taking in round 10 then. A little bit of Isaac Orendo, if anybody doesn't know. We're making that a rule this year that if you're taking Christian McCaffrey at any point in your draft, if you don't leave with Isaac Orendo, we don't know you. We don't know you.
So
Following McCaffrey, Trey McBride's off the board, so the tier one tight ends are off the board. Now Johnny's back up with his second round pick.
so I did not anticipate those backs going where they did. So now that puts me in a little bit of a bind as what I want to do. Um, for
Stings,
some
right?
of for some of the backs that are still on the board, I think I can get one or two of them that I'm looking at coming into the third round versus taking them now and get more value out of one of the receivers that are sitting on the board. Now, I know I said previously, just a couple moments ago, I was going to take a running back at this point, but seeing the backs, at this point that have gone off the board, I think I can get better value out of receiver and then coming back for a running back in the following round. So that's what I'm going to do. And the receiver I'm going to take is going to be Lad McConkey.
No, no. Every time I keep hoping he falls to the end of the second. Oh my gosh. So Lad McConkey went, following him, T. Higgins. Thank God I don't have to take T. Higgins.
Yeah, I could not
My
have
pick.
run from that faster. Goodness me.
Yeah. Well, I'm not happy with the wide receivers here. Tommy and I are both much lower than consensus on JSN. Garrett Wilson here. I think we're about even on. We're a little bit. It's narrative street, the whole Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson thing. So he's definitely in consideration. Terry McLaurin we're both high on. So it's going to be between Garrett Wilson and McLaurin. If I was to go running back again, we're lower than consensus on Bucky Irving, so it would not be Irving. I could go Josh Jacobs here. This is where I grabbed him in the prior draft. I know Ashton Jantes might. I could play the game and try to get him on the way back. We're both we feel good about him. So running backs have a shot to come back. I'm happy with Jacobs or Jonte or Kyron Williams on the way back. So I'm gonna go a wide receiver here. I'll take Garrett Wilson. Jets fan. Let's go.
All right, the JSN went, Taylor went, Jacobs went, and
Right.
first quarterback off the board, Lamar Jackson went, and Billy is back up on the clock at 3-3.
Yeah.
Also,
So
for the viewership, it should be noted here that the first quarterback to go at all didn't go into the third round. So for some of you guys that want to take a quarterback early, one of those top tier guys, you may not actually have to. So just keep that in mind.
yeah. So with the third with the my third round pick here, I'm not gonna. I won't waste too much time. I'm going to take Jonty. So just quick. So the
Well,
logic, the logic here is basically that we see Jonty we're higher than consensus on him. So I do think that ADP is going to start reflecting that. He's going to start moving up the board as we get closer to draft season. But for now, I'll take him here. Following Jonty, Chase Brown's off the board. And then Johnny's up. I see one or two good running backs left before a bit of a drop off. So
Yeah, so I absolutely at this point needed taking running back. I was hoping Josh Jacobs would have fell all the way back to me here, but unfortunately he did not. So because he went off the board, now I have to make a decision between it's not Bucky Irving. That's not for me. I think a little too rich at this spot. To me, it's Brees Hall or Kyron Williams, my savior in a lot of fantasy leagues over the last couple of seasons. So I'm going to go with a little bit more of a run first kind of offense, and I'm going to stay with the New York Jets and Brees Hall here.
woo, over Kyron. All right, then after that, Josh Allen goes, and I'm on the clock. Um, so I got an interesting move I can make right here. I could continue to go running back. I can,
Uh,
obviously.
if you don't take the wide receiver that we think here, I mean, then it's off brand for us. So
I know. I know who I want to take. I know who I should take. Um, so yeah, I'm going Terry McLaurin.
yeah, yeah.
After Terry
Over.
McLaurin, Bucky Irving goes, then Jaden Daniels goes, Mike Evans, then Kyron Williams goes, Devontae Adams, Harrison. That's who I was kind of teetering to potentially take over McLaurin, but again, I can't really not take McLaurin. Rice
Team
or
12 going all wide receiver strategy
yep,
here.
yep. Maybe they'll go 6 or 7 like the last guy. Um, Cook goes and then Hawkinson goes, and then I'm back on the clock. So
All the tier one quarterbacks are off the board.
Now that the tush push has not been voted, to be shut down, I can talk about taking Jalen Hurts, but no, I'm good. So the next element that I'll be looking at is obviously, my flex element where it could be my wide receiver or running back as well too. Stick with the running back play. I do think there are some pretty valuable players that are on the board right now, still early in the game. And there's two that really stick out for me right now. The first one is Cortland Sutton, who had a tremendous year last year with Bo Nix. More so towards the end of the year, he just was unstoppable. He was a wide receiver one play pretty much every single week, for the remainder of the season. I think from the last 8, 9 weeks, he just was great, great, great um, wide receiver play. And then Alvin Kamara is kind of sticking out there as of right now.
Don't you dare! You became low on him
I
after you
know I
found the
became
Derek
low on
Carr
him, but I
pick.
mean the fourth round for a running back one who's going to catch all the balls. I mean, who's the only player on the field. I mean, it's tough to not to take. But I think I want to have a little bit more balance. Instead of going flex, I will stick with my a little bit more balanced strategy, and I'll put Cortland Sutton on my roster with my fourth pick. Then after that, Walker goes, and Johnny's on the clock.
So for me, at this point now, I have a couple of options that I can go with. I'm leaning heavily towards DK Metcalf at this spot, even though I already have two receivers and have a three wide receiver head that I could plug and play for bye weeks or flex spots, etc. So that's something I'm toying with. Or I can go with a running back at this point. I'm not going to touch Alvin Kamara at this point. I could go with Chuba, but I'm still a little, uncomfortable when it goes to Carolina and their offense at the moment. I think Mixon is done. Connor, I think, is just about done, even though he just got the extension in guards, at least for fantasy purposes. For me, at this point, I think I'm going to take DK Metcalf.
Interesting.
Who's throwing him the ball?
Interesting.
Oh, it'll be Aaron Rodgers. He will sign there September 1st, but he will be the quarterback at Pittsburgh.
So I'm pretty happy with wide receivers that I could grab on the way back.
Here it comes.
I'm always eyeing George Kittle in the fifth as a great value. He's my number three ranked tight end, so we're higher on him than consensus. But I can't pass up Alvin Kamara here. It's going to be too valuable in the early part of the season. Although we're feeling good about
Philly's
you.
playing for 4 weeks.
Well, if I'm drafting Kamara, I'm going to look to try to trade him after 4 or 5 weeks because he's not going to be
Everybody
able to.
note that.
Well, everybody's listening to our stuff. This is what we're doing. We're not going to hide stuff from people just so that people can't, make it this. I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'll take Alvin Kamara here. And Chuba goes after him. Then Jalen Hurts is
Ah!
off the board. So the first of the tier two quarterbacks is now gone. Godwin's gone. Tommy's a complete darling this year. And then Connor's off the board. And so on the way back, I'm happy that I got the running backs that I did because now there's a major drop. I think there's one more quality back that Johnny looks like he's praying that ends up to him. But I'm gonna go wide receiver here. The, a lot of guys fell, but I think I'll go it's an automatic for me. If he's available in the fifth, I'm gonna go George Kittle. That's where I'm going.
All right.
Following George Kittle, the second tier two quarterback is off the board. That's Joe Burrow, and he is gone. Now Johnny's back. I wonder what position you're going.
So I have two options. I can go with a running back or I can go with a tight end. So for me, I need to look at the rest of the board and see how it's going to fall coming back to me versus what's sitting there from behind me at this point. So yes, I do see that Joe Mixon is there available. Right now, he's ranked the 52nd overall player, and I do need a running back. But
Can we
what's
can we be can we be open about this? I don't know how you don't take David Montgomery here.
well, I'm more concerned that I don't know if it's going to look exactly the same for both of those backs another year again. The odds of that actually being the case are not in favor of that actually being what we see for 2025. So that's my level of hesitation. Yes, even though I need a second running back and whatnot. Usually, what I do, folks, for most of my drafts is I do a lot of running back skeleton teams, and free agent myself and trade myself to have backfields for the rest of the year. So that's usually what I do. For this particular place, the way the board has felt, I'm nervous about taking Mixon. I'm nervous about having Montgomery. I don't know if I want to have Hampton as my number two back, considering he's a rookie with Najee Harris already there with the Chargers. So for me, I'm going to go with something that I actually like and enjoy, which is Sam Laporta at tight end for Detroit.
Okay.
Sam Porter goes to Johnny, and then Chris Olave goes to Team Six, and I am on the clock. Um, so I am going to do the strategy. I am going to add David Montgomery to my Jahmyr Gibbs and gonna go with it. We talk
Okay.
about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. It's I don't believe it's a bad move. I think it's a great opportunity because if one goes down, the other one takes it on. I got my backup. So I got my really, really good, backup when it comes down to it. But again, they're both relevant when they're both on the field and healthy. I think it's a great opportunity. Touchdowns go more so, on the 1-2 yard line to Montgomery. Um, I can't go wrong with that one.
No,
Uh,
but we say about that one, the Gibbs Montgomery pairing, it's you don't go out of your way to do that. But if it
no,
happens to fall via ADP or something, fine. At
yeah.
that point, fine. After Montgomery, while you think about your pick, after Montgomery went, we got Devontae Smith, Jameson Williams, Joe Mixon, Jalen Waddle, George Pickens, Omario Hampton. Then Mahomes is off the board, Baker Mayfield. Ugh, I love Baker this year. Jordan Addison, Isaiah Pacheco, and now Tommy is back on the board.
So I can continue to go running back because I value again. I look at Gibbs and Montgomery to be equals, not equals, but like again, he's my flex, right? So Montgomery is just really sitting in my flex position, and then I'm looking potentially for somebody to back that just in case there is an injury if I go running back. But if I go wide receiver, I'm looking for somebody that basically is going to be potentially a boom opportunity. He's going to be on my bench, and then he's going to flex his way in due to injury or underperformance when it comes down to McLaurin or Sutton. So at this point in time right now, I can start looking at tight ends as well too, potentially, but I think right now it's not the time to do so. So I'm gonna take my sixth round pick. I'm gonna take some value that I think is there, or there's the value play and there's also a risque play. The first one is basically Aaron Jones. As I spoke about him earlier, I think he's a great value. I think that he's going to have a really good year. They're going to lean 60-40 when it comes down to run compared to pass this year with the I call him now a rookie quarterback because he was out all season. He didn't touch the field last year. So with JJ McCarthy coming at the helm, I think that's a really good opportunity. I also think obviously Tyrone Tracy with Camps Scabudo basically being drafted as well. I think here's
Scatterboo.
Scattaboo. There's going to be a lot of good opportunity for him to be healthy on the field and kind of like split carry element as well too. But the one that's a little intriguing to me to like kind of lean run wide receiver is a Brandon Ayuk. He had a tremendously horrible year last year. He did have an injury. He did great. He did get the bag. He now is technically the number one wide receiver on that offense. I do feel great about Ricky Pearsall, but I'm gonna take the risk this pick, I think, and take Brandon Ayuk with my sixth pick.
After Ayuk goes, Najee Harris went off the board, so the entire LA Chargers backfield is now gone. Now Johnny is back on the board.
Well, I was going to take Harris here, but obviously I can't do that. Now, at this point, I absolutely need to take a running back at this slot where I'm at. So to me, it's going to be down to either Tyrone Tracy or Tony Pollard. I'm not going to take Jones at this spot because who knows if he's actually going to be able to play all 17 games. I'm going to go with youth, even though it's I think, a weaker offense. I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy.
If you're a person who grabs Tyrone Tracy, does that mean it's pretty much guaranteed you got to try to get Scatterboo towards the end of the draft?
We'll see. I
Like
I
it's
think
gonna
he's
be, it
more
might
of a
be irrelevant for what we're doing now because we're only going 10 rounds, but just a thought,
no. It's somebody that you can grab if you're gonna handcuff yourself with a giant backfield. It's not a terrible idea. I just think that guy is more of a name now because of what he did in the playoffs.
hmm
I don't know if it's going to necessarily translate into what he's going to look like in the NFL. So that's my level of hesitation because he only got drafted in the fourth round. So it's not like he got drafted higher than a lot of the other backs that got picked. So
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna play a little bit of ADP game. I, I want two of these wide receivers here. I want Xavier Worthy and I want Khalil Shakir, but I'm also extremely high on Jacoby Myers, so I'm okay if Myers or Shakir falls. They're a little bit lower on ADP, so I'm gonna go Worthy here, and then we'll see if either one of them falls, and I'll grab the other one on the way back to balance me out in terms of running backs and wide receivers. So let's get Worthy.
Then Jerry Judy goes,
There we go.
Aduze goes, my boy Khalil Shakir goes, Pollard goes, and Billy's back on the clock.
And to me, it's easy. Like I'm feeling great about Jacoby Myers this year, especially here. I don't even have a thought in my mind for running back. I mean, I already stacked my team up with running backs here. Although if I was, I think that Brian Robinson is severely underrated at this point, so it's worth keeping in mind going forward. But for right now, I'm going to take Jacoby Myers, and that'll even out my team.
all right. So for me at this point, I have my two.
Following Jacoby Myers. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers. I took Jacoby Myers. Following Jacoby Myers, Aaron Jones. Now Johnny's up. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So at this point, I have a couple of options. I can take the best available player. I could take a quarterback. I could take a running back. I could take a receiver. So I have a lot of options at this point because I've filled both my running back slots, both receiver spots, and the tight end spot. So for me, I would like the idea of going best available player. Right now, that's listed as Jared Goff at 75 overall. I'm not necessarily too comfortable taking him as my quarterback. Somebody that I actually do like as a fantasy quarterback is Kyler Murray, who sits four slots behind him. So I think I'm going to end up taking Kyler Murray at this spot.
Okay. Following Kyler, DeAndre Swift is off the board. DeAndre Swift could be underrated or overrated this year. It just depends on you think about his talent and the Bears offense. Well, we're not sure about him just yet this year. We'll think about it. Now Tommy's back on the clock here.
Yeah, so right now my roster's lining out that basically I have Gibbs, McCaffrey, McLaurin, Sutton, Montgomery, and then Ayuk. So as of right now, going into our seventh round, going to my seventh pick, I still need to fill a quarterback and a tight end. And obviously I can continue to pick my running backs and wide receivers. Right now, I believe that there are some really great values um, at quarterback still. There's some good values at tight ends. And going to, to kind of piggyback off of our conversation last week, I really think that if Travis Kelce comes back and he is looking like the Travis Kelce from 2 years ago, them saying that he has lost some weight, he's in football shape right now. That's great to hear. I'm going to take the risk at tight end. What's the worst thing that happens right now in the seventh round and taking Travis Kelce? Doesn't hurt. I don't think it's a crazy move to take him right now. There's some players out there that I can value to be really good picks, but I mean I can't really pass up on that right now. Then after that, Jared Goff goes, Warren goes, um, Brian Robinson goes, Stevenson goes, Travis Etienne goes, uh, Debo Samuel, Billy's favorite player, McMillian goes. Calvin Ridley goes, Andrews goes, and then our favorite number one wide receiver, Jaden Reed goes. Um, and I'm back on the clock at 8-6. Um, so another play that I'm really intrigued about this year, just because he is technically the wide receiver one on this team, is Cooper Kupp. I think he's a better I think he's going to be more targeted, to be honest, than JSN. I think JSN is just overly hyped this year going into this year based on last year's progress. He obviously has a new quarterback. I think going with Sam Darnold, I think Sam Darnold's going to go with a vet look, and I think Cooper Kupp is a really good pick right here. But I am feeling like I may pass on him because of the quarterback that's sitting right there as well. Bo Nix finished his year tremendous. He was a great quarterback. And I think going into this year, Bo Nix, especially how this roster that I'm putting together with the connection, the hookup with Cortland Sutton, I think it's a great value to have him in the eighth round. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix as my quarterback. And I think it's like I said, I mean it's hard to pass on Cooper Kupp value right there, but Bo Nix is there's so much positive play right there.
So I'm kicking myself a little bit here. Cooper Kupp went after Bo Nix, folks, by the way. I'm kicking myself a little bit here because four running backs that I would have been perfectly fine taking at this pick here went off the board towards the tail end of the seventh round. So now I have to almost play a little bit of catch up when it comes to my third running back. Although I don't feel anybody that's currently sitting there that's available, somebody that I should take at this slot, which forces me to look elsewhere. Elsewhere, if I look the best available player, I've already had my quarterback at Kyler Murray. I'm not going to take Justin Herbert at this point. So I'm going to look at the wide receiver market to see what's there. Only problem is Indianapolis with their quarterback situation, which is, Lord knows what's going to happen there. Josh Downs and Michael Pittman are the top two ranked wide receivers that are available. So then if I look at other positions, I have to go from there. So right now I'm at a little bit of a tough spot. For me, looking at what's on the board here, I'm going to slide past Downs at Pittman, and I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall.
Oh,
If I could figure out how to work a computer, I swear.
Well, while you figure that out, I just thought I'd mention that you know, I well, now that I'm on the clock, I feel comfortable like saying it. So after Pearsall went, Downs went. So I definitely want to try to get a running back either here or on the turnaround. In terms of quarterbacks, at this point, there's a lot of quarterbacks to choose from. There's one or two there's a point at which I'm going to be unhappy if I end up, but I'm going to try to grab a running back here or the way back. Um, Tommy and I had a fun laugh talking about the Dallas running back situation, and we could say anything we want about it, but Javonte Williams is going to get volume. So if you need volume and depth at that position. Maybe it turns into something, maybe not. So Javonte Williams is an idea, but maybe I could get him on the way back. In terms of wide receivers, though, I think I'm pretty much just going to stick with Diggs here. I'm going to take the shot that it's just an endless amount of volume that Drake May peppers him with. And now with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, I'm going to go with Diggs. And so following yeah, I was about to say we had like a little bit of a computer glitch there. So following Diggs, Evan Ingram's off the board, Michael Pittman, David Njoku, Rico Dowdle, Rico Suave's off the board, and now I'm back. And so at running back, at this point, there are only two volume running backs left on the board. That's Javonte Williams and that's Jerome Ford. I'm going to go with Javonte Williams just because it seems like it's going to be on a better offense. So I'm going to go Javonte Williams, and I'll save my quarterback for the final round. After Javonte Williams, Justin Herbert's off the board, and now Johnny is back on the clock.
So I probably would have taken Javonte Williams at this part here because I'm going to need another running back, and I unfortunately cannot wait until the longer reach before it comes back to be here 10th round. So I have to take a running back in this slot. So to me, that's either Tajay Spears or Rashad White.
Really,
Um,
not Jerome Ford.
I, I'm just terrified of what's going on in Cleveland at this point, and they're going to be down, 30 points in the middle of the second quarter, just about every game they play.
Volume, though.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just absolutely terrified to
Okay.
see what's actually going to look like Cleveland's offense. And like Stefanski, I think is a really good coach. He's just been saddled with the most ridiculous situation ever with Deshaun Watson nonsense. But for me, I'm going to take the better offense at this point, and I'm going to take Rashad White.
Okay.
And CJ Stroud goes, and I'm up on the clock. So as of right now, I have three wide receivers, three running backs. I have my team filled, and obviously I need to take Isaac Garindo with this pick right here.
You get
Doesn't
him on
matter.
the way back. Yeah.
I know I could get him on the way back, but I know quarterbacks are going to be going, so I just might as well just take my player needed. Value pretty much is still there. After I took
After Garendo, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Tajay Spears, Brock Purdy, Tucker Kraft, Dak Prescott. These are all the quarterbacks that I would have taken on the way. I should have got ahead of the game. Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, Darnell Mooney, and Keenan Allen, and now Tommy's back for his final pick.
Yep. So there's a player that I think is going to have a pretty decent year this year. The player that I'm looking at right now is Christian Kirk, to be honest. Christian Kirk has been traded to Houston from Jacksonville. Right now, Houston only has Nico Collins as the number one wide receiver with losing Stephon Diggs, and obviously Tank Dell is out for the season, or at least the entire regular season. Number two wide receiver on that team is Christian Kirk. He's a very valued wide receiver. I don't think he's going to have the same amount of targets that he normally does, but there's been periods of time where he's a number one. He finishes number one wide receiver weeks. He's a number one wide receiver 2 weeks, and having him as my number four wide receiver, I think that's great value right there. The other player that I'm looking at as well too is Trevion Henderson. I think that he's a great value pick right there as well too. But I think right now my team is needing more so wide receiver depth, and I'm going to take Christian Kirk with that pick.
So after
After
Christian Kirk, Ford just went for team number 6, and I'm on the board for my last pick of this mock draft. I like taking rookie wide receivers and taking a couple of them to see which ones stick and actually going to give me value towards the second half of the year and towards the playoffs. So to me, I'm leaning towards two guys: Ted McMillan from Carolina and Abuka for Tampa Bay. Um, I think that McMillan's going to get a little bit more opportunity in Carolina, even though it's a worse offense. So I'm going to go with McMillan at this point.
So after McMillan, Charbonnet came off the board, and so I should remember. So like we all talk all the time about late quarterbacks and stuff, but just looking at the landscape of the quarterbacks that have gone and the ones that are still available, I'm not I'm not happy as it is with where things are. So it's worth keeping in mind. And you judge the leagues that you are. If you think people are going to be grabbing quarterbacks later than sooner, you could judge accordingly. But here, honestly, I need to grab my quarterback, and I think just for fun slash it. Now, if this is a 4 point touchdown league, to me, I'm okay taking the shot here on Justin Fields, which is what I'm going to do. If it's a 6 point touchdown league, I wouldn't bother, and I could always wait around for that. But I do have the Garrett Wilson situation, so a little bit of a stack there. Um, I'll just keep it in mind that if quarterbacks are going this fast off the board, I probably wouldn't want to wait this long because I'm not so happy with this group. So just that little explanation out the way. And there we go. Yeah, other picks are going off the board, but we're gonna call it off there. Stafford went off the board, and then Bigsby. So let's just quickly call out the rosters. I got Justin Fields as my quarterback. Bijan Robinson, Ashton Jonty as my running backs. Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy as my receivers. George Kittle as my tight end, and my flex is Alvin Kamara on my bench. Jacoby Myers, Stephon Diggs, and Javonte Williams. What do you got, Johnny?
My quarterback is Kyler Williams. I'm sorry, Kyler Williams. Kyler Murray. My running backs are Brees Hall and Tyrone Tracy. My wide receivers is Justin Jefferson and Lad McConkey. My tight end is Sam Laporta. My flex currently, as we speak, is DK Metcalf.
Yep, and I have Bo Nix starting at quarterback. I have Jahmyr Gibbs as my RB1, Christian McCaffrey RB2, Terry McLaurin, Cortland Sutton, Travis Kelce, David Montgomery, Brandon Ayuk, Isaac Garindo, and also Christian Kirk as my bench spot as well too.
There we go. Everybody could let us know who they think won this particular mock draft. But
Yep.
yep. And next episode we'll go over the AFC North, and get another mock draft for you. So any closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, we appreciate everybody that tunes in that watches these videos. We'll obviously be dropping our content on Apple Music at some point, right? Apple
Apple
Podcast.
Podcasts.
Yeah,
Yep.
Apple Podcasts. So we're going to be dropping our content on other platforms as well too. So,
Apple
you know,
Music.
Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, same thing. But again, we appreciate everybody that tunes in. So, if could share, subscribe. We appreciate that. Like we said, once we get to 50 viewers, 50 subscribers, we will be going live on some shows. So, be interesting to really get that going. We really love to have the opportunity to do so. So. If we can increase our viewerships, that'd be wonderful. But again, appreciate it, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.